Here's the point here. People on the right should never expect that folks on the true left, people who are intellectually dishonest, are going to grant them credit for speaking truth to their own side, because it's not going to happen. If you tick off the left enough, they are just going to accuse you of pandering to your own base. That's all that's going to happen. It doesn't matter what you actually say. It doesn't matter what you actually do. It doesn't matter whether you've gone out of your way to try and be intellectually honest about your own perspective, or whether you've criticized people on your supposed own side. None of that matters to the left, because for the left, they must paint a picture of right-wingers as a bunch of red meat eating zombies who simply want to consume information that they like. You know, they don't worry about that on their own side, but they worry about that on the right. Never mind the fact that most conservatives read things on the left. Most conservatives, are in a culture that is dominated by the left. Despite Jane Coaston's evidenceless propositions to the contrary, the fact is that the mainstream American media culture is dominated by the left. It's not dominated by people like me. Okay, Daily Wire has become a very big site, thank God. But it is not a big site in comparison to places like Huffington Post. And the fact is, the left still dominates the media conversation. And for Jane Coaston to deny that, and for her to suggest that those of us on the right are merely in the pandering business, is to demonstrate her own ignorance. You want to know who is in the pandering business? Somebody who is hailed by the left as a moral hero is Jimmy Kimmel. So Jimmy Kimmel was hailed for the past 3, 4, 5 weeks, ever really since the Obamacare attempts by the senator from what's the name of the senator who was on his show? In any case, I can't remember the name of the senator for Bill Cassidy. In any case, the Jimmy Kimmel did a whole rant about Bill Cassidy and Obamacare, how terrible it would be if Obamacare were repealed. It was evidenceless. It was fact-free. I did an entire rebuttal of it here on the show that went viral. And Jimmy Kimmel has been hailed as a moral leader because he spoke out on gun control and because he spoke out on healthcare. And he accepted this mantle. He obviously thinks that he has a voice in this. He's not just a comedian. He has a voice in this. And as a citizen, he feels the necessity to use his platform. Now, he has every right to do that, right? He has every right to do this whole thing. What I said was, when Jimmy Kimmel did this routine, that he was the moral arbiter for the country. And he posed himself as that, right? He said things like, "You are immoral if you disagree with me." This was the implication of his Las Vegas rant, that if you disagreed with him, you were immoral. You want people to die because you're being paid off by the gun lobby. We went through it in detail here on the show. You pose yourself as the moral voice of the country. I said, who died and made Jimmy Kimmel the moral arbiter? Well, because that went viral, Jimmy Kimmel, without responding to me by name, responded to me directly on one of the Sunday shows. Here was Jimmy Kimmel responding, and I want you to note, who do you think is pandering here? Who do you think is pandering? Am I pandering for standing up for a perspective that I have held my entire political career, have spoken out for openly and honestly for 15, 16, 17 years, or I'm 33, so I've been doing this since I was 17, so 16 years, right? Is it me? Am I the one pandering when I say things that I think are true to the right and to the left? Or is it Jimmy Kimmel? Because I'm going to show you a clip of Jimmy Kimmel in which he openly acknowledges that he is basically pandering and he doesn't really care. Here's Jimmy Kimmel.
You've heard there's one conservative commentator in particular who says, who made Jimmy Kimmel the moral arbiter?
I'm not. I mean, yeah, I agree with them. I'm nobody's moral arbiter. I mean, you don't have to watch the show. You don't have to listen to what I say. Like 3 years ago, I was equally liked by Republicans and Democrats, and then Republican numbers went way down, like 30% or whatever. And, as a talk show host, that's not ideal, but I would do it again in a heartbeat.
So you don't mind if Republicans turn off your show? They're not watching anymore?
I don't say I don't mind. I mean, I love for everyone. I want everyone with a television to watch the show. But if they're so turned off by my opinion on healthcare and gun violence, then I don't know. I probably won't want to have a conversation with them anyway.
Okay, so it's that last part that's the telling part. So number one, when he says he didn't appoint himself a moral arbiter, I'm glad. I wish the media would stop appointing a moral arbiter then. And I wish that he would stop talking in these passionate moral tones about everyone who disagrees with him being the Antichrist. Like, that would be nice if he would cut that out then. If he's not the moral arbiter, then he should stop posing as one. And that final comment is the one where I say he's pandering. That final one where he says, if people disagree with me so much on these topics that they just turn off the TV, then I wouldn't want to have a conversation with them anyway. Well, if somebody said that to me, right? If somebody said, there are a bunch of people who are turned off by your rhetoric, what do you say about that? I would say some of the same things that Jimmy Kimmel said, right? I would say, listen, they have a right to watch the show. They have a right not to watch the show. But I would say is maybe they should listen to my perspective and I'll listen to theirs and we can have a discussion. I say this in every speech. In every speech, I say this. Okay, I always say that I want the conversation to take place. I want more people on the left to listen, and I want to hear their ideas too, so we can go back and forth on this. Okay, it's Jimmy Kimmel saying basically, if you don't want to watch the show, so long, see ya. Right? That is not the voice of somebody who wants to convince. That's the voice of somebody who wants to pander. So if Jane Coaston wants to write a piece talking about quote unquote hollow moral bravery, then maybe she ought to start with the person who, I'm not saying Jimmy Kimmel appointed himself moral arbiter, except that he sort of did on his show. I'm saying the media appointed him moral arbiter, and he seemed happy to accept that and happy to revel in it until the point where I called him out, at which point he immediately backtracked. So I'm glad he's backtracking. I'm glad Jimmy Kimmel doesn't think of himself as a moral arbiter. If Jimmy Kimmel really wants to debate these issues and have an honest conversation about them, I'm more than happy to come on his